Alright, I wanted to wrap up my series on Mel's Miniatures. I don't know when I'm going to get to do another one, hopefully fairly soon, but I'm not sure. So I just wanted to wrap up these first 5 models that I've done. I guess it's actually 6 because there are 2 Gazantes, but it's 5 items from Mel's shop on Shapeways. So the first thing I wanted to just go over was Mel's designs. I think they're great. They're awesome. They're very compatible with FFG's designs. In terms of scale, they're all right there. Were ones that you can really compare scales, like the CR90 Farstar or the Hammerhead or the Gazantes. These are right in scale with the FFG models. They're almost dead on. Where scale isn't immediately comparable, in terms of the Sea Rock, the Sea Rock should be about flotilla size, and it is. In terms of the assault frigate is it's definitely a medium-sized ship for sure. The scale is probably a little bit harder to determine for Mel on this one, just because the only reference material I've ever seen are a few screenshots, I think, from a video game. And because of that, there has to be some interpretation, I'm sure. But in the images, there are CR90s and Nebulon Bs in order to compare it to. I had a couple of people commenting that this was just a modified Nebulon B. It's not. It is a separate ship. The person that was complaining refused to believe me even after I showed him concept art, well, not concept art, the photoshots, the screenshots from the video game. Still refused to believe that the scaling was right, but I think it's pretty close, or as close as Mel can get it using the material that he has. Mel does some great work. Sometimes he's only got 1 or 2 images to work from, and he does a great job representing them in 3 dimensions. In terms of Mel's store on Shapeways, Mel's store is, and this might be more Shapeways than it is Mel really, you really do have to browse his store. For example, the Armada section for ships has about 120 models at the moment, and you really do have to browse through it in order to find the ones that you want. I happen to enjoy that. Some people might not. I do find sometimes I'll go in one time and I come back again and the ships have reordered themselves in the list. So the only way to find it is to kind of scroll through everything. One thing I will suggest, if you're thinking about ordering one of Mel's models but you haven't yet decided what to order, find the ones that you like. They do have a wish list on Shapeways. Add them to a wish list, and that way you'll be able to find them quickly once you do decide you want to order 1 or 2 or 5 like I have here. In terms of Shapeways was great as well. The ordering process was easy. After you order, you can track all of the models through production and through shipping. My first order actually came well ahead of schedule. The second order actually, I think, arrived about a day behind schedule, but it's close enough. I was fine with that. My guess is around the holidays that might change. Around the holidays, things might get tighter for them. I don't know what their capacity is for printing. So if you're thinking about ordering, think ahead if you're going to be doing it for the holidays. In terms of the models themselves, well, actually, just back to Shapeways for 1 second. So shipping is a little, it's reasonable, although not cheap. Look for promotion codes. You can search Shapeways promotion codes on Google or something. A lot of them didn't work, but I did find one that worked. I got the shipping on my first order for free. It's worth looking into. But that's just some advice. If you can search out the promotion codes, you can eventually find one that will work. In terms of the models themselves, they're all fantastic renderings, as I said before. I did choose Frosted Ultra Detail, or FUD, for all of the models. I highly recommend it. I've only researched the white soft and flexible online, or the black soft and flexible. And I will say the fidelity or the resolution of the models I wouldn't have been happy with it. I saw some people have done a fair job of cleaning some of them up to make them look reasonable, but even then they kind of have a soft and almost fuzzy look to them. I much prefer this. In terms of the fragility of the material, the Frosted Ultra Detail, I was worried a little bit about it before I ordered. But once I've gotten them, they are all reasonably robust for me. Now I will say for the Gazantes with the dishes, the radar dishes on top, those are fairly wispy. This wouldn't survive a drop from a table onto a hard floor for sure. So you do want to be careful with that. But some of FFG's models won't survive the drop to the floor either. So hopefully you're just being careful not dropping your models. I would say the Hammerhead and the CR90 here are probably the most robust. The Assault Frigate has these bits down here, these long extensions. I'm sure that those, if they landed right, would not survive a fall from a table either. So you just want to be careful, which most of us are, and I think you'll be fine. I don't think you have to worry too much about the fragility of the material. Going back to Shapeways for a second, the shipping, all of these came very well packed in bubble wrapping and in oversized boxes. No need to worry about packaging and getting your models intact. The only thing that I have to say that might be considered as a negative in terms of some of the models was on the Hammerhead and in places on the Assault Frigate. On the Hammerhead, it was all in the lower part, in this lower mandible and across here. The model was very rough. It was actually very hard to make out a lot of the detail lines initially. That was resolved through cleaning. You need to clean these very well. They have a powdery, oily feel to them when you get them out of the box. You need to wash them with soap and water pretty vigorously. Let them rinse and dry well before you paint them. This one I actually went with some tools. I got like a toothpick and even a sharp knife in order to clean out all of the lines in the model. But as you can see here, after a lot of work, everything looks fine. So I think even the ones that you get that are a little bit on the frosty and rough side, when you get them, with enough cleaning and working, you can get them clean enough. You just have to be persistent about it. These aren't like models that you go to the game store, you buy a prepackaged mini. These are 3D printed models. They require more prep work before painting. So just expect that. In terms of the painting them, I did use all Citadel paints, including primer. I do recommend going with a Citadel primer or similar. It's made for small minis. I don't go with a hardware store spray paint or spray primer. It's not made for minis like this. It's gonna get all gunked up in all the lines, and you're gonna lose some of that nice resolution that you get out of the model. Spend the extra money, get a Citadel or similar primer, and practice your technique. You need to practice the technique. I see some people use the wrong technique and you get blobs and runs of paint. You want to avoid that. You can look at one of my first Gazanti videos of painting it. I do some detailed talk about priming there. I'll try and link that at the end of the video. Try and go with that technique. I do plan in the future, I'm going to pick one model and I'm going to go through a very detailed process on one model. So that means I'm going to do one video for every step. So I'm going to have an entire video just on priming for the same model, and I'm going to take that model all the way through all the different steps. Very detailed, so that if you're looking to do models like this, you can get a similar result. I don't consider myself a great painter by any means, but through a little bit of practice, a little bit of trial and error, I've found some things that work for me, and if they can work for you too, that's great. But if you find something that I do, you don't like the way I do it, that's fine. Just trial and error, figure out what works for you. In terms of the paint, again, I like to go with Canon, or as close to Canon's paint schemes as I can. So Imperial stuff tends to be gray. You know, the Gazanti, I tried to go fairly standard, CR90. In terms of the Assault Frigate, there isn't really a lot of Canon. It's not Canon. So, and the only images I found were from this one video game, and it's just plain straight gray. The whole thing. It's pretty much a monotone gray. I obviously didn't go with that. I went with a more rebel feel to it, with the dirty white and some red lining. And I used the Nebulon B for these front fins. And then for the hammerhead, I did go a little bit off the board and I went with the purple. I don't know of any rebel ships that have a purple as a secondary color, so that was off the board on this one. But I did like how it came out, and I do intend to use that again at some point. So in the future, I do intend to order some more in the future. What I liked about these, I really liked doing the Assault Frigate. I liked the size of it. I liked painting something that big. I liked painting the others too, but getting in that detail work, it can be really trying sometimes. Doing something this little can be a little bit frustrating because you can't expect to get the fine detail in something like this that you can with something bigger. So I do hope to do more bigger models in the future, although that I do have my eye on a few other models. So 3 models that are right now I have in my wish list. I've got the modified Nebulon B, so it's about the same size as a Nebulon B, but it has similar stylings to the Assault Frigate here. I do want a space station. I think Mel's space stations are great, and it would be just a good conversation piece. Put it on top of the token until the ships come around. Once the ships start overlapping the token, then you move the station away. I think that would be fun. It's kind of a medium-ish model. And then I do have my eye on one really large model. It's the Lucre Hulk Star Destroyer. It's slightly bigger than the FFG Star Destroyer. Very expensive though, so I'm hoping to get some gift cards, hopefully for the holidays, and maybe we'll be able to get a Lucre Hulk Star Destroyer going at some point. I do want to pick up some more Imperial stuff. Right now it's just the Gazanti. But like I said, I like playing the Imperials probably more in the game than the Rebels, but the Rebels are much more interesting to paint. So I do like the Rebels from that aspect. The Imperials I find, because I like to go with Canon paint schemes, that means it's gray with a dark wash. That's pretty much all I do. There can be little things here and there. Now in terms of this stuff, it is a luxury item for the game. If you're into Armada, there's no reason for you to get these models. I will say though that they're excellent conversation pieces when you're playing, especially when you're playing somebody new. It sparks conversation. People want to know how and where you got the models. So I love that part of it. But there's no reason to get it. It is a luxury item. But I will say, if you've been having an itch and thinking about getting one or two of Mel's models, I do suggest you scratch the itch and go ahead and get it. Get the models and you won't be disappointed. Just take your time painting them. Really wash them well. Think everything through. I actually found that doing the videos helped me with the painting of the models because I talked through everything before I did it. And I had a plan in place before I did everything. Where if I just sat down and started doing it, I might not have done that. So scratch that itch. The only thing that I would warn against that is once you scratch the itch doesn't really go away. These are awesome models and you'll want more, but highly recommended. I would go for Mel's models any day of the week. So in the future, if you would like to see more of these videos, please subscribe. Hit the bell below for alerts when I upload more videos. I'm going to have more projects in between now and the next time I get some more Mel's models, so there'll be other content coming up. And also give me a thumbs up there for this video, and have a great day. Thank you.